Alrighty, my friend. Hi, Andy. We've been talking for like 20 minutes, gossiping a lot about pandemic issues and pandemic fun and quarantine ways to keep us busy. But here we are. Hi, buddy.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Hi, how's it going?
So we were just, we're thinking about creating a little bit more of content, I guess, for the fun, for the sake of doing it, so people can stay a little bit more entertained these days. Also to give a little bit of information about things that people is being wondering and asking to us. So we're just doing like a very quick Q&A, Mia and Andy.
Yeah.
So what do you think we just jump into some of the questions that we...
Let's go ahead.
Okay.
Let's solve some questions, some answers. Let's go.
Okay. So for those who doesn't know how we've been doing this, we just basically what we did, we went to our students group and we basically just shot a very general, let's say, offering to everybody who, whatever you want to ask about and all that, go for it. So these are some of the questions that we have. So, okay, ready, Andy?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. We have, some of them are like tricky and too long. We are gonna do our best to answer them in a useful and not too boring way. So let's do this. Okay, Adrian asked us, I was wondering if you guys could explain how to work on twos. I don't really know how to apply it to 3D. That's a good one, eh?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that I've been asked that same question many times, and every time I answer a different way, but the content is the same. It's just, I think for example, in my case, I animate exactly the same way as I would if it wasn't on twos. It's just I go directly to my golden poses, and once those 5 or 6 work perfectly, then I jump to the blocking, and then I do a blocking plus, and then I do a blocking plus plus, and the blocking plus plus plus, I don't care how many poses I have to put there. And then is when the people say, okay, you have to spline at some point. Well, right now we don't need to. We're just blocking plus, keep going on that blocking. And if you want to spline it out, you can. But the thing is that at the end, you'll need to go back to twos and go back to the step mode. So my thing is always working blocking plus all the time. Blocking
plus. Yeah, I think another way to say this is exactly, I would actually answer it the same way. Another way to say it also, to help a little bit maybe with the mindset or the clarity, I think that, as you were saying, first is having clarity of the kind of workflow that you have. I think that what happened and what I've seen in a lot of young animators and people that is not been animated for too long is that they don't really understand the importance of knowing what is a workflow and knowing how to create a workflow. It's like, okay, where do I start? I need to start, as you were saying, I start with my key or golden poses, and from there, how do I start adding breakdowns? So probably what's tricky is to really know when and how to start adding those breakdowns, right? In order to, if you have like 10 frames that are empty, okay, how do I then add another keyframe right in the middle so I have now 5 and 5? And how I add another in the middle, and then I have 2, 3, 2, 3, for example. So it's knowing, really understanding as you were saying, the workflow itself, create each different level or a deeper level of blocking plus, so you can stay in control and still stay on twos, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I used to do. Like you said, 10 frames, and then you divide it, you get the 5 and 5, you have to divide it into 2, and then you get to the blocking plus, let's say you get 2, 3, 2, 3, and even sometimes you need like 1, 1, 2, 1 or something like that.
1 or something.
Yeah.
So the point is basically keep adding breakdowns to hit that limit of 2s or maybe or 1s, right?
Exactly. I think a very big difference that I felt when I was doing this on twos and on step is that the computer didn't do anything for me. It's me who is adding those keys. It's me who's adding the overlaps. It's me who's doing the overshoot. Everything is me. It's not the computer. I don't leave anything to the computer to do it himself. We don't have those nice curves that the graph editor creates. You just have like that step. So it's your doing. And so you have more control, but at the same time, you need to be more experienced to know how to work with those keys.
Yeah, I think you're right with that. I also think that probably you, in order to do like a good job on twos, is something that you need to have a certain amount of experience to really understand, to know how the animation works, and to understand how an ease out, for example, works on twos. Like, okay, I need to somehow start to feel that kind of incrementing separation of the spacing, which is something that maybe when you are young or start to animate, your eye doesn't really catches those tiny little differences, but the more you do, your eye is more used.
Yeah, your eye starts to feel all that. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Maybe we could say that it's a good mixture of having experience doing animation, that few years doing subtle or knowing how to do those subtle changes, plus workflow, understanding
plus your workflow. Yeah, that's pretty important. I think that jumping from from twos to ones is changing also your workflow. Like you said, sometimes it's not changing it; it's just using your workflow and adapting it to animate on twos. But the essence is the same. It's just keeping the same way.
Yeah, that's exactly the same. Just a note, something that I'd like to comment on working on twos. Bringing a little bit the work that Alan Camilo has been doing to the community in the last few years with Animbots. I used to work on twos a lot before Alan Camilo came up with this, but it used to take me way longer.
Yeah, 100%.
Like now, working on twos is a delight. It's
so easy. It's so easy with that. Yeah, I totally agree on that. Animbot solves you so many things with that. Because, for example, in the last one we've been working at Bron, was also on twos, and you felt like, okay, now I control Animbot, so my animation is going to be twice as fast. I'm going to spend less time thinking what I need to do because I already know what Animbot can do for me. So I don't spend time thinking. I just do it. It's like pop, 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 pop. It's just
yeah. So that's nice. Good. I think that's a very good answer for that.
Yeah. Next question then.
Yeah, that was a pretty nice question. Roberto Mortera asks, what would you recommend to focus on more when we're working on a reel from someone that has been doing VFX animation and now wants to jump into feature cartoon animation? This is a classic one, eh?
Yeah, I think he already answered himself, right? If you want to go to a feature cartoon animation, you need to do that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, I don't know, there's VFX movies that has some cartoony animation, but if you want to go specifically, let's say Sony, that they do that stylist and, I don't know, exaggerated animation, you need to do some kind of shots like that so that they get attracted to you and they say, okay, this guy's worth for us. Definitely. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, going a little bit more in deep in what you say, how to do that cartoon animation. This is something because a few days ago we did a open feedback session, and somebody else asked a similar question. So I guess maybe also the difficulty is like, okay, but how I do the cartoony thing if I'm not experienced in doing cartoony, right? And let's say, for example, and maybe you don't have the capacity, you don't have the resources to study with somebody that can introduce you to that style easily. I think the best way to do it also can be, as I always say, even when you are an animator or when you already have some experience, get up shots of the style of where you're going and use it as reference. You can even use it as reference, or you can even just use it and copy it.
Exactly.
The younger you are and the less experience I don't know if you've done that, Andy, but when I was starting animation, I did copy a lot of shots. That is like, okay, I like that shit. It's like, woo, look at that, how he's done it. And basically just frame by frame, copying.
Yeah. And I still do that. I go frame by frame when I see something that I love, and it's like, okay, I have to reproduce this in my way. And it's like frame. Oh, nice, I get this. Yeah.
Right. So that could be a good way, no? Answering a little bit to Roberto, no? It's like just grab a shot like from any of those, whatever you consider is cartoon, because also cartoon.
Yeah, it's like a very wide concept as well. Yeah, yeah.
So let's say, I don't know, Bob Esponge. You really like Bob Esponge. Grab a couple of shots that you like, and put it in your desktop and watch it frame by frame. And why not copy it? Grab a character that is cartoony looking at and copy it and reproduce it, and little by little. That's can help you to really understand and how to translate what you know from the VFX to the cartoony, because at the end, it's animation. It's applied.
Yeah, it's the same stuff. It's just like, okay, the style might be different, but in the end, it's the same thing. We need to do the overlaps. We need to do everything the same way. It's just that cartoon is more exaggerated some parts, whatever. But just adapting what you already know, because you're an animator, you already know that stuff. So it's just watching, reproducing, copying at the beginning. Yeah, 100%.
Maybe actually, there's a couple of things, and I don't know what you think about that, but there's a couple of things maybe that from the experience or coming from a VFX experience into cartooning animation, there's a couple of things that maybe that you really have to highlight, though, as we were saying, it's exactly the same thing. That, for example, in VFX, you don't really pay too much attention on the pose itself. Rather, maybe in VFX, the most important part, let's say,
the physicality of it.
Physicality, right? All the body mechanics and all that stuff. Which in cartoon animation is like, what? It's like body mechanics? None.
Nah.
It's actually,
we want the pose.
we want the pose, right?
Yeah.
That in VFX is like not that much.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit also understanding, okay, what things are not so important anymore in VFX, and what now is really important. So aspects as that, as for example, also in VFX, you give a lot of importance to weight. Right?
Here, not so much. I mean, everything has its weight, but it's not the important stuff. It's,
I would say maybe more snappy. The timing itself.
The timing itself is way more important than the weight. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it all may come from understanding. In order to you do that cartoony shot, and starting frame by frame and see.
Yeah, starting at the beginning is the main thing. 100%.
Yeah, lots of people have been very interested lately in getting into cartoon animation, and I think that everything that is happening around in the industry with what you guys did at Braun and the last few years at Sony, Real Effect is also releasing lots of cartoony stuff lately. Seems to be a bigger concept now, so people is like, okay, how do I
think that the industry is also getting wider right now. Everyone is starting to, I don't know, the creativity is exploding again. It's just not only Pixar and Disney style, which is, or I mean, apart from VFX, it's just like that naturalistic. No, okay, let's break everything. And since they get that that Oscar, let's say, to Spider-Verse, is like, okay, let's wider even more. Let's do, for example, Love, Death and Robots. It's like even crazier. It's not cartooning as itself every short film, but it's like, okay, let's get wider. Let's investigate. Let's break things. Why not? So yeah.
So it's great. Well, also, I guess I could take the opportunity to mention that, for example, at Animawarriors, we're going to be releasing a master. It's called Master Cartoon, which is basically everything that Andy and I were talking about.
Very interesting.
Hands-on, right? So that's another way that I understand that if you don't have the resources or whatever, there is still ways. Okay, now we have also lots of questions from our friend Bal Sirgu.
Wow, so many, yeah.
Let's try to answer some of those, okay?
Okay.
Do you think that we can answer the question about breaking down the time of making a shot? What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, let me read it a little bit so people is a little bit understanding of what are we talking about. So, I'm pretty sure, Balsivo says, I'm pretty sure I've asked this before, but I don't have a satisfying answer. Okay. I am interested in how long it takes to do a shot and also break down its time. I'm going to do this in bullets so it makes sense. Okay, so I guess that he's asking for a little bit of, okay, how much it can take a little bit, a shot to get done in terms of hours, and depending of the different stages that we may have.
Yeah, so I think it's so difficult to settle a specific time, let's say impossible, because it's just based on the length of your shot, how many characters you have, what's the point of the movie or the TV show that the characters are living in, the cameras, if the rig is 100% finished. I mean, it's 100, so many things, so many variables that is so hard. But if we have to divide it, like we were saying before, maybe it's I spend some time on the planning, how let's say I have 5 days, how I divide those 5 days, that might be interesting. Yeah. But just asking or saying how much does a shot, how much time are you going to invest on a shot? Yeah. I think that's harder, right?
It depends of the artist, the studio, the style, the production,
so many things, so many variables there.
We can go from a shot. I don't know. I've done shots of 12 seconds in 2 days because I was working in TV, for example. But also maybe I may have spent in a shot that is like 3 seconds, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, or even a month.
I mean, yeah. We can always open the door of having the conversation about the famous quota. No, it's like, okay, what's the quota of this show? What's the quota of this studio? You know, what's the quota that this guy can do? Because that's the thing. So I think it's too wide, and depending on the. But yeah, maybe it's interesting if you can tell us a little bit, how do you distribute the time, as you were saying, percentage? Okay, if you got a shot. Let's say you got a shot that is 10 days. You have 10 days for a shot.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Okay, 2 full weeks. So for me, as I always say, the most important thing is the blocking for me. But before that, I really need to analyze what the shot is and where it sits in the movie. So let's say we have a sequence that it's like someone is telling her feelings for someone, for example. So I need to see how he feels about what she's saying. If he actually loves her, if he actually doesn't know what he likes. So I need to see where he's sitting right now, how he is feeling. Before, also at the same time, I need to see the previous shot and the next shot to see where he's coming from immediately, not the whole sequence, just immediately, and see the whole sequence. So let's say all that planning stuff, I would invest one day and a half maybe. And also if I need to shoot some references. Lately, I don't usually shoot so many, but if I need to, because I feel confident and I need to see something, not just searching YouTube or in movies or whatever. I need to feel it myself. I don't know, let's shoot some references. So I just, let's say 1 day and a half on that, basically. And that's my own opinion. I just jump on Maya because I'm not a very good drawer. So I just jump on Maya and start doing poses and creating poses. And sometimes before I get the first good pose, I've done like 10. And I've tried 10 different poses for the same thing. And facial expressions or whatever, just create all those moments. And let's say I spend like 3 days with that if it's necessary. And then I show that. As soon as I have those 10 poses that works, I show it. Because even if there's no timing at all, it's just, these are the 10 expressions I need to show and see what the shot is about. And once I have that, it's just adding breakdowns. It's, okay, here are my golden poses, let's break it. Let's break it until I have everything in twos. I usually like to play on twos. So that's another 2 days, let's say. For me, the part where I spend more is the golden poses.
Right.
Always. And if they give me time, okay, I can be polishing for months. There's like a never-ending story. But if I don't have that time, let's say, that's the last part.
Right.
So yeah, those 3 days, golden poses, and blocking plus like 2 more days. And then just the other thing is just 5 days on splining, polishing, feedback, going back to the original thing, going back to whatever you need to.
Right.
Something like that.
Maybe splining is a process that it stays more flexible depending on how much time you have and the delays.
Yeah. Sometimes you just spend so much time on blocking that you don't have so much time left on spline. So. But if you have a very specific blocking, you don't need, in my case, for example, that's what I like to do. I have a very specific blocking, very final, so that my splining is not going to be such a big headache. Because I like to have my blocking as close to the final thing as possible.
Right. I think actually that I have a very similar way of distributing the work that what you do. I do some thumbnailing before, like the different parts of the exploration, because also I'm not very into video referencing, though I love self-observing myself and trying to base my thumbnails and posting through acting out, but not necessarily catching it on video. Let's say I catch it by self-observing myself and then doing thumbnails and all that.
Mhm.
But yeah, same as you. Probably, yeah. Sometimes I even say that blocking can take up to 60 or 70% of
Hmm.
the job. No, the early stages of blocking, where you're just creating the core ideas and the core concepts and the core poses, is the one that really maybe needs more time, and maybe a little bit up to later, the spline, if there is a spline to do,
Yeah.
but maybe not putting too much or so much time in the splining process.
There's something very funny that I want to share. Is that when I started doing my first blockings, I realized that I added my keys or whatever, and then when I put everything on spline instead of having it in step, I felt like, oh, I lost my animation. So yeah, it's a typical step that you have from step to spline, and you see things breaking and things that doesn't make any sense. So I thought, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to feel bad. So I'm going to make sure that the blocking is cool. So sometimes I'm blocking and I switch everything to spline to see how that works. And if it's not working as I would like to, I go back and I step again and I keep working on step.
Yeah.
And then when I'm sure that when I spline it is almost what I'm expecting, that's when I'm ready to get to spline.
Yeah. So we go back a little bit to what we were saying before, workflow and the workflow that. So that's something that I think is important also to mention when you are understanding, when you understand the process and the workflow itself. It's very easy for you to also distribute your time, right?
Mhm.
When, it's like, okay, I know that I have to start with my golden poses, then I do key poses, then I start doing several layers of breakdowns. That you have, let's say, that very clearly mental organization of the different levels of work. It's very easy for you to say, okay, how much time do I really have to spend
Mhm.
each stage, right? If you have, let's say, if we would have like, let's say, key poses, golden poses, 2 breakdowns, and polish, you know that you have 5 stages,
Mhm.
and you know you have, let's say, 5 days for a shot. How would you apply those 5 different stages, and how do you organize yourself? Because that's also part of it. I guess that's maybe why Val is asking, because it's important to know how do you organize your job in order to deliver in time, and to know how much you need to take in order to make a shot work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's based on your workflow. That's the basic stuff. Like you just said, your workflow is who's going to determine how many time you need for each part of the process. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Let me see if there was something more in that big question that Val was asking. Maybe it's
I think that the first one is like all of what we just answered, right? Is how much time into blocking plus, spline. Yeah, I think that's.
Well, he asked us at what parts of the process you show or have to show your work to supervisor or directors, and what some examples of notice that they may give. Ooh.
I think that's something to do with the workflow also. There's people who I know that they don't like showing, so they try to show the less possible.
Yes.
I know, I'm kind of the
one
opposite.
of those, I have to say, like, if I can, I only show once.
That's it, right?
Like, don't give me more notes.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to show quite often, because if, I don't know, sometimes I just say, okay, just go back to blocking when I'm feeling like the blocking is nice. To me, that kills me. It's like, oh no, I like the shot like it is, and now they're telling me to change something basic. So that I try to show as often as possible, so I avoid that in the end.
Yeah. So yeah, it depends a little bit of
your workflow, basically.
The workflow too. I guess studios, I would say that maybe the studios may have, let's say, the rule, or they would expect from you to at least show in the main, let's say in the main stages, at least once in the main stages. If we would say what are the main stages of a shot, let's say blocking, blocking and splining at least, right?
Yeah,
But
those two.
you should be showing at least once when you're done with your blocking and once when you're done with the splining. But again, depending on the show, the studio they are working on, some studios they require a cleanup, also a cleanup showing. Some studios, as I've heard, like for example DreamWorks, they ask to show planning too, like video references and all that. Back in the time, I don't know if that's still going on. So at least you may need to show once in one of each key stages of the development of your shot, whatever that is. So, and then your personal workflow comes into play. Like if you really like to show it more as possible, then you show it more than those times, definitely.
Yeah, it depends on, just like you just said, sometimes you just only have to show two parts, let's say blocking and splining, and sometimes you need the cleanup. In Sony, for example, we do like blocking, spline, and sometimes cleanup also, but we don't show that to the director, for example. But in Braun, we didn't do that. In Braun, we just go ahead, and the cleanup, it has to be seen also by the director. So it depends. It depends on the studio. So basically, also, I think he's asking also, how long does those notes take you? And that's the main question. Is if you need to go back to blocking, just think that you're going to have to change a lot of stuff. So that means a lot of time.
And it happens.
And it happens. It does happen. And it's going to happen to you, and it's going to happen to every one of us. So we have to be prepared for that. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it's true, and sometimes it's true. I guess that's why many people, as you say, they like the idea of going often as possible, so they know that they are, they're doing well. They keep going, and as the shots keeps building and keeps adding more breakdowns and new details and all that, that at some point the director is not gonna say, oh, you know what? Because and I understand, and sometimes that happened to me. That maybe you show or I show maybe one time before, maybe like 3 weeks ago, and the director totally even forgets about the note that he gives, right? So then you arrive there maybe with a work in progress, or with a block in advance, or maybe with a spline, and they just start talking about acting choices. Or
I don't feel the character like this mood here, or whatever. Yeah, that happens so many times. Or your shot gets on hold, for example, for 2 months, and then you get back to it, and oh no, I didn't feel like the character was gonna do this anymore. Yeah, start again. Oh, okay, I'm on it.
So, following a little bit of the question there, also he was saying like what kind of notes you can get. More specifically, maybe talking about the director. From the director, you can get any kind of notes.
Anything.
Kind of note in any time. Like you may be doing polishing, and maybe he starts talking about posing, and maybe he go back to because many directors, but what happened before is that many directors are directors that has no experience at all in animation, so they don't really understand the animation workflow. So, which is something that doesn't happen with supervisors. Most of the supervisors that I worked on, I don't know you, but at least me, I think that they all understand very well the process and the workflow itself. So they only give notes, or they try to do their best to give notes within the range of the stage that you are. If you are in polishing, they only try to comment on polishing, unless maybe you screw up something with some pose, and then they have to pull it out, right?
Totally. Yeah.
But usually supervisors are acknowledged more, and they understand better the stage and the workflow that you are at. When the directors, so I was saying, not necessarily that happens, because maybe you're working with a director that comes from, I don't know, maybe VFX or live action. And they even comment on lighting. Sometimes I got notes on lighting. It's like,
I think at the beginning it's hard for everyone to see that the director, it's his movie or her movie. It's just they are the ones who's gonna say yes or no for everything in the movie, every single word, every single color, everything. So it's their movie. If they just want to change the character, they're gonna do it. So you have to realize that it's not yours. Even if you're working on a shot, it's not yours, it's theirs. So if they say something, it's going to go, and you have to do it, and there's no option. And like you said, the supervisor is the intermediate between those things. Sometimes they help you so that you don't show something that for sure is going to get like a kickback. No, this is, I think I know the director, this is not going to work, so we're not going to show them in case.
Right.
Sometimes that's tricky because you think your idea is nice. Sometimes that's tricky, but you have to trust your supervisor on that. And I think that's the main thing, trust.
No problem. And just trust, and whatever they comment on, you do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you go forward.
One more thing that I also remember, that some other nature kind of notes that you can get overall from director, is that it's a note that doesn't come from director, that doesn't come from supervisors, but comes from the producers. That is,
oh yeah, that's a different story.
That's a different story, but it happens sometimes, you know, so people know that you may be working in a shot that maybe is working perfectly, everybody's loving your work, but then one of the producers, or maybe because they've done some kind of a screening to the producer's team, or maybe because they were having some kind of conversations, and the producer steps in and adds some comment to your shot, and
after all, it's their money, right?
Then it's true, and it's also their
you have to do it.
Their movie, so you have to do it. Those probably are the more weird notes that you can get, but also sometimes are the notes that they don't come with a lot of explanation, because there's like a lot of intermediate people, like maybe the producer has talked to the director has talked to the supervisor, and the supervisor. So it's kind of like a little bit diluted and difficult or different to implement it.
Yeah.
But it's another nature of kind of, you know,
I think that's the hardest notes ever. Yeah.
I think there is. I think
yeah.
Is the.
All right. Do we have more questions?
So we have lots of questions, and maybe we do like a couple more, or maybe one more. Like. Yeah. Let's see if there's one that is like nice. Because definitely Val has like lots of questions, but it's nice. Some of them are very good. Okay, I think this is very nice. Not a common question, but I think it's nice to know to talk about it. So Val is asking, I'm wondering how isolated from the rest of the production an animator is.
All right, how isolated is an animator? Okay, so I feel like our job is teamwork 100%, right? But not just in your animation sector. You totally depend on the previous department rigging, and the previous in modeling, and you depend on the script, and you depend on the next one, you depend on lighting, and because if not, the movie doesn't go further. So we work as a team, but it's true that sometimes the real team is more like your department, right? You're in an animation, so that's your main team, let's say. So you're isolated inside your own team. That's not accurate. I think you're more like a small team where you have a lead, and that lead tries to make like a common, like a group, like a small group. For example.
Together, yeah.
Yeah. So right now, for example, I think we're 6 or 7 in our team right now, and it's true that you don't get that feeling like I don't know, like working on a restaurant or whatever. Like you get to talk to each other all the time, and you can tell stories. Here is more like you're in your computer and you're doing your animation, and sometimes you go to rounds where you show and you get to talk to other people. So you're not exactly isolated, but sometimes you actually need to be so that you can work. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's mainly not isolated inside the team, and also I don't think in the movie. But I don't know. Yeah, you depend on your colleagues and your other departments. I don't know. It's a tricky question in that way.
I think it's a good answer. I think that I think you're right. It's not necessarily isolated, though sometimes the nature itself of the job, because you're in your desk and everything that is happening goes through the computer most of the times, unless, as you were saying, you go into any kind of meeting, right? Or where you go to rounds or you talk to people. Many things happen through your computer, and you just, for example, if you're in a place like Sony, where you just basically have like a nice big desk and with separators and all that, you can get, let's say, you can get very easily, or at least that's in my experience, you can get a little bit experience of work office, where working in an office where it's a little bit corporate, and you can get lost in, sometimes, and me, Andres, sometimes I try to talk about certain aspects of reality in this industry, and sometimes that may happen, that you are working in a studio where you have the feeling that you're pushing buttons. You are not necessarily, yes, the hours there, not having like a lot of interaction, unless you make the effort to get connected to others, and let's say, and have a more clear experience of teamwork. I guess also I compared that a lot with how the rest, let's say, of the film industry works. No, I don't know if you ever had a chance to walk into any set or filming set, or where definitely that's the other part of the balance, where that's not isolated at all.
It's
feel part of a mega team that is working, and there is constantly something happening. And it's not that it's not doing animation or VFX. It's not that that's not happening in our work, in our let's say, digital industry is happening, but it's a little bit hidden, probably in the backstage, in the computer part of things, because there's like a lot of things goes through digital meetings and emails and all that, right? So I can say that lots of people also is expecting to a little bit more of dynamism. Like, for example, when you're working on real life set, film in a studio, or TV, for example, or even in theater, it's like constantly are getting people talking to you. You move at the same time you do work and all that. So maybe that's probably what take us a little bit
more like an isolation side. But it's also based on your personality. If you want to be isolated in the animation industry, you're going to be very easily isolated. If you want to do that, it's just like, this is my computer, this is where I'm going to work, so you just stay like that. But if you actually want to make friends and talk to people, you're not that isolated. It depends on you.
Yeah. Also, you're lucky, and you land in the nice studio where they cherish, or they nourish, let's say, the social aspects. So they have social events, and they have, let's say, the common areas can be nice, so people can. I don't know. I remember when we moved from the old building from Sunny to the new one, where all the big kitchen and the chill out areas and all that. I don't think the chill out areas are still there anymore, right? I think that they have become something else. But that was very nice, for example, and that was something that helped the people to to spend some time together. We used to have video games around, and all the amount of parties that they were organizing and all that. So
they still exist, but they're smaller.
They're smaller. Nice. So yeah, I think you're right in that. It also falls into your personality, but you have to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
Probably also, but thing is that if you don't pay attention to that, it's very easy to fall into this kind of
isolation. Yeah.
You have to force yourself a little to step out.
Yeah, that's true. I don't like that feeling. I like to talk to people and make relationships.
You don't work at all. You're just
yeah.
Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I go out and I don't do too much work, and I spend all day. But also because of that, because there's the flexibility, right? That you can focus 100% and don't talk to anybody.
Yeah, sometimes you need to. That's true. That sometimes you need to do that.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. You feel like one more, or are we done? What do you feel?
Yeah. One last question. Quick one. I need to go back. Yeah.
Okay. Quick last one.
Well, the last one is quite long, so
that's even just reading it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. For example, I like this one, Jorge. It says, how is the process of showing your work and receiving feedback looks like? Is it done on a one-on-one basis, or is there like a big meeting with an open critique? How specific are the notes? I see that it's an interesting question because right now in the movie I'm working on is kind of changed because I didn't work like this before. Usually what I felt or what I had in the previous shows I worked at is that you get your supervisor and then you have your lead and all the animators in the same room and you're going to show stuff to the supervisor. Okay, that's the first step. And the supervisor is the one who's going to give the notes and he's going to say, okay, this is working, this is not, this is ready for the director, this is not, stuff like that. So if it's ready, you show to the director. And in that meeting, you have the director, you have the supervisor, you have the lead, and all the animators that are showing.
Right.
So that's what I've had before. Right now it's similar, but now it's like when we get to that first meeting with the supervisor, it's not only my lead there, it's all the leads of the movie. And it's like an open critique. It's like all of them give notes. So at some point it's nice, and also sometimes it's not as nice because you get a lot of notes.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's very nice because you see other perspectives. So I didn't have that before. It's just like before was my lead and now it's all of them. And the good thing about that also is that you get to know each lead and what they like and what they don't, and you see their strengths. For example, there's one specific guy that is very good at with brows and eyes and stuff like that, and he's always very pointing at those. And it's like perfect because my lead is great at other stuff, and if he missed that by any chance, he's gonna see that, you know. So if it's not like a specific thing where I've worked, it's just here it's happening like that.
Yeah, I've seen that before. I've also seen that before in some shows that are just starting, like are in the first few months. You know, where you can handle, or where it is affordable to handle.
Yeah, exactly.
10 notes or 20 notes, and it's all right. But I remember a couple of shows where we started like that, and then little by little, only your own lead steps in with you, because of course, you know, the other leads
Yeah,
their own stuff. So
it's exactly what you said, because right now we're starting, so we get to do that stuff. I understand that when we're going to be like 100 people again, that's going to be impossible. But
yeah.
Right now it's likely, and it's very nice seeing that, because you get to know the characters better. So when you get feedback later on, you already know those characters and stuff like that.
And in the same line of what you were saying, I also seen, and also because of being at the very beginning of the production, and I can see the usefulness of that is that sometimes the rounds are done with the whole team instead of just with the few guys that are showing.
Yeah.
And I can see that can be very useful. So everybody listens to what are the notes given. So you're learning a little bit about the show, the style, how everything is taking shape when you are starting the show. So it helps a little bit to create this sense of, you know, of consistency, because, you know, it's very common that at the beginning, everyone does something different, right? So
yeah.
It also helps a lot. And I also like those meetings a lot. True, those are meetings that takes a lot of time, but you know, at the end, if production sees utility of that and allows it to happen for the first few months, why not? I think it's great.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, after all, we're going to spend a lot of time with those characters, and we need to know them well, and that's the best way of doing it. It's just feedback, more feedback.
Yeah, and getting to know.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I think that was a pretty good chunk of answers and questions and answers.
Yeah, very fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for sending us all those questions. If this is something that helps and people likes, we might keep doing this sometime in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But, in the meantime, just to thank to all of you who are staying home to send us all this. So thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you so much.
My friend. Just so you guys know, also, Andy is going to be teaching sometime soon, no? I think next.
Yeah, I think it's starting in 14th of April, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah, nice. Turbo Skills mentorship. Okay. Gonna be pretty nice. So if you guys have any questions for any of us, please feel free to shoot down here, and we will gladly answer about it. And that's it. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe. Andy,
be safe. Yeah, stay safe. These days, all of us, we need to stay safe. So yeah, stay safe, and a big hug.
Yes, and as joyful as we can, because that also helps us to go through this in the best way as possible.
Exactly. Bye, guys.
Sending a big hug. Take care, huh?